All right, hello all. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Conchita Hernandez and I'm the Maryland State Blind and Low Vision Specialist. Today's session is part of our expanded core curriculum series that the Maryland School for the Blind Outreach Department is hosting. We have several other webinars with Dr. Wolffe as well as other experts in the field around the ECC. I will put the full listing in the chat box and the description of the video with registration links. All of our webinars are recorded and posted to our YouTube page, and you can subscribe to our YouTube page. I will also post the link to that in the comments. You can post your questions in the chat box, and Dr. Wolffe will answer them at the end of the session or email you, or we will find a way to answer all of your questions. So thank you all. A little bit about Dr. Wolffe. So Dr. Karen Wolffe manages a private practice as a career counselor and consultant in Austin, Texas. She coordinates content for the World Blind Union's Employment Resources website, Project Aspiro, consults with organizations and schools worldwide on employability skills, training, and transition programming for individuals with vision disabilities, and teaches distance education courses. In 2021, she published a report on global employment facilitators and barriers for the World Blind Union. In addition, she completed work on the Florida Blind Services Foundation vocational evaluation tool and shepherded its use in Canada with CNIB's service delivery arm, Vision Loss Rehabilitation, or VLR. Finally, she produced a virtual training series for VLR employees and related service providers in Canada on career education for children and youth with vision loss. Her employment history includes work with Salus University and Perkins eLearning, for whom she has taught online courses, as well as the American Foundation for the Blind, as Director of the Professional Development and Career Connect, AFB's online employment and mentoring service, course development and instruction at Hadley School for the Blind, and as a faculty member in the Department of Special Education at the University of Texas in Austin, where she also directed the Job Readiness Clinic, an applied learning lab for people with disabilities looking for work and university students studying to become rehabilitation counselors or special education counselors. Dr. Wolffe has written extensively and lectured worldwide on the importance of careers and employment, social skills development, self-determination, and transition in the lives of people with visual disabilities. So welcome, Dr. Wolffe. We are so happy to have you with us here today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video and audio and turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Conchita. I appreciate you doing the introduction and reading through my bio. Saves me all of the details that most people don't really need to know, I guess, about me anyway, but it's nice to have them. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I'd like to welcome all of you who have joined us this afternoon on this first seminar for the Maryland School. My session is actually called Career Education for Students with Vision Impairment. And on this first slide, I give you the details on how to reach me, because even if you don't get a question into the chat today, or you think of something after the fact, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm very, very happy to respond to your emails. The trick with reaching me is to spell my name correctly. So Karen is easy, Karen, last name Wolffe, Wolffe, and my email address is my name, karenwolffe@gmail.com, but you must put in both F's and the E, or it will go to some other big bad wolf. It will not come to me. Please do not hesitate, though. Reach out if you have any questions at all. Today, I'm going to chat with you as quickly as possible because we only have this hour. And I want to talk about the importance of career education. I want to share with you some of my insights in terms of working with children of differing ability levels. And then in the latter part of this afternoon's session, I'm going to really try to hone in on service delivery to early childhood recipients, young children, preschoolers in particular, and elementary students. And then in my session next week, I will shift gears and go to middle school and high school. So it's a lot to cover, but I'm really looking forward to visiting with you today, and I think you'll find it of interest. You may be asking yourselves, why in the world do children with vision impairment really need something called career education? Can't they just capture that through environmental contact like their sighted peers? And of course, the answer is not usually, because children with vision impairment are typically at risk due to their challenges in capturing information incidentally or casually from the environment, where children who have full vision are looking around from their early days, identifying people, mom, dad, siblings, pets, and what they are doing and what they are wearing and where they are going. And beyond that, when children start to see their older siblings, if they have them, going out to school, they see the accoutrements, the lunchbox or the lunch tickets, they see the backpack, they see so much about what is going on in the environment. And children without good vision, both blind children and children with low vision, may miss all of those visual cues or many of those visual cues, or misinterpret those visual cues because they're only seeing a piece of the puzzle rather than the whole picture. So this incidental learning impacts in a very, very severe way knowledge about the environment, the world around you, what people are doing, how they are managing, what they are doing to take care of themselves and others, and what they are doing for work. It also obviously impacts those social skills, learning to smile and respond to smiles, shake your head yes, shake your head no, etc., etc., etc. So this incidental learning is critical to career knowledge and awareness. The second issue for children who are disabled, frankly, is that families, particularly parents and professionals in many, many instances, tend to focus on academic skills and safety issues almost exclusively. Teachers are under incredible pressures from administrators and parents to keep children with disabilities on grade level. Parents have been told, many of you included, because you have children, many of you of your own, that getting that education is the most important thing in your child's life in terms of whether he or she will succeed ultimately in getting a job, being able to support himself or herself, being integrated into the larger community. And while education is absolutely important, it is not the be all and end all. And for children who have vision impairment, it's my strong belief that they spend far more time than they should, in truth, on academic skills, and not nearly enough time on learning about the world around them, how to leverage those academic skills into social situations, into work situations, into life. Many of the children that we work with don't really put it all together in terms of what they are learning in the classroom and how that's related to where they want to be when they grow up. My advice to all of you, all of the time, no matter whether you are working exclusively ECI or early childhood intervention, or exclusively in preschool, kindergarten, up into elementary school, or whether you're working in only with older students, middle schoolers, high schoolers, youth in transition, moving into post-secondary, no matter who you are working with, always begin your work with children with the end in sight. Where will they go next? What will they be doing? What do they need to be preparing for? If it's a movement from home to preschool, what are the differences between those two environments? And what are the skills the child needs in order to be successful in preschool? And likewise, moving from preschool and kindergarten into elementary, what are the differences? Any of you who are teachers know that there's a huge shift around third grade with how work is presented, the number of chunks of content that are being presented, etc. So what do they need to know to make that transition from third grade into fourth grade, and then fifth grade and sixth grade and middle school and high school or junior high and high school? What do they want to do in their lives? Where do they want to live? With whom do they want to live? And how will they support themselves? They need to be developing skills now, regardless of their age, that will enable them to succeed in that next environment. The outcome goal, I give you this information on the slide because I feel like it is so important to remind us all. It's for all children. It's not just children with disabilities. We want all children to reach their potential, to grow up happy, healthy, and to be productive citizens, regardless of their attributes, gender, race, nationality, religious or secular orientation, ability or disability. It doesn't matter. If you are the teacher, you are the parent, you are the caregiver, you are the significant other in a child's life, you want that child to grow up to be the very best that he or she can be, to be healthy, happy, and productive. So what do we need to do as adults, whether we are parents or teachers or mobility instructors or simply a significant other from the community? We need always, with children who are blind or visually impaired, to convey our high expectations of them. And when the child has a severe vision impairment, they need to hear what our expectations are. I expect you to get up when the alarm clock goes. I expect you to help your little brother. I expect you to pick up your bath towel when you finish your bath, not just throw it on the floor. I expect you to put your clothes in the hamper, to tell them what those expectations are so that they know that you have those expectations and can meet those expectations. And if they don't meet those expectations, you need to let them know what they did right and what they need to do differently in order to meet your expectations. But always, as adults, I believe we have a responsibility to convey our high expectations to the children with whom we work. Many of the children with whom we work who are disabled have learned from other people that those other people don't really expect very much of them at all. General educators, community, strangers, sometimes family members or extended family members will have very, very low or limited expectations of children with disabilities. We need to counter that by talking about what our own high expectations are. With children who are visually impaired, I want to encourage all of you as adults to always be thinking about social skills and encouraging socialization, not just between you and a child or other adults and the child, but with same-aged peers. Because as many of you know, or all of you perhaps know, lots of the kids with whom we work can carry on a good conversation with an adult, but they are out of their element when they are with children who are their own age. So encourage socialization. If you have opportunities to do any kind of team teaching or group interactions, or support your student in a group project with other students, encourage extracurricular activities outside of school, after school, that put the kid that you're responsible for with other kids. It's that socialization that's going to make or break many of the students with whom we work, particularly in terms of work, because remember what your mom told you, it's really not what you know, it's who you know. And if other people like you, they will take you on board, they will keep you on board, they will work with you. But if they don't like you, they will find a way to get rid of you. So always to encourage socialization. Now, I think one of the things that teachers of students with visual impairment are doing a really spectacular job with is teaching those, and the mobility specialists, frankly, all of our special educators and related service providers, mobility specialists, TVIs, AT trainers. You guys are doing a wonderful job, in my opinion, developing those blindness specific skills. Braille, use of technology, use of the long cane, adaptations in the environment to make it less demanding visually and to make it more accessible through tactile cues, teaching kids to listen so that they know what the cues are out there that they need to pay attention to. Encourage those parents with whom you work to reinforce those blindness specific skills at home and to encourage their children to apply the skills that you've taught them in the home environment and to use those skills moving out into the community. How many of us have seen a student with whom we work who has learned long cane travel skills out in the community using human guide with his or her mother? You know, it's just frustrating because parents tend to make it easier for their kids, not understanding that what they are doing is undermining some of those skills that we're teaching to help that student compensate for lack of vision. So develop and reinforce those blindness specific skills. Always provide realistic feedback to the students with whom you work. This is not to say to be mean to them or unkind to them. It's to say the kids we work with often don't get the real information about the work that they are doing and how it compares to the other students' work. The students we work with are often told, you are so brilliant, you are so clever because they can brush their teeth, or because they can walk a straight line, or because they pick out their own clothes, or because they help their mom or dad at home with daily living skills that we would assume a child with full vision uses all day, every day. And people around us will often, and you know what I'm talking about here, they will often say to kids, oh, you are the best piano player, because they're slamming out chopsticks. And what I'm expecting is for them to be starting in on Bach or Beethoven. And be realistic. How does your students' work stack up against other students, not just self, but others? Are they as fast? Are they as efficient? Are they as quality oriented? Are they getting their work in on time? Are they getting their work completed in a timely fashion? I understand special educators, special education encourages us to give students with disabilities an accommodation of extra time. It all ends when kids leave school. It all ends. And if you need to give a student extra time, time and a half or double time or whatever you're giving them in the beginning to teach a skill, I understand it. I appreciate it. I do it too. But you have to ease back and start pushing the envelope and saying, now you need to push it up because your work is slower than your classmates' work. And you can get away with it now, but you can't get away with it forever. An employer will not allow time and a half or double time as an accommodation. It is not a reasonable accommodation. So give the kids realistic feedback, help them set challenges for themselves to improve their speed, to improve their accuracy, to be as productive as their sighted peers, because that's who the competition is going to be moving into work. And always and forever, I would share with you, many young people with disabilities get their first start at work through programs that have opened up for them due to professionals making things available or their parents making things available before the rest of the world jumps in and gets into the picture. Promote opportunities to work. In the beginning, it's about chores. Encourage the students with whom you work to do chores, to be involved in their families' efforts. If they have opportunities to go with their families to work, to do so, to get involved early on, no later than late elementary, in terms of doing some volunteer activities in the community. Promote opportunities to work in the classroom. If you are working with kids out in the community, to give them chores to do as they work with you, so that they and to call it what it is, work, so that they get used to the idea that we have that expectation that they will go to work, and that we have that expectation that they can do. Understanding that all students are not created equal. And I don't know how else to say it, except that we all know that not everyone has the same ability as everyone else. Some people are gifted in different ways. Some people seem to be like universally gifted. They're very, very talented, very, very clever. Some of us are more average kind of students. And then some students have really demanding needs for life. The only way I know to break it up is to parcel it out into what I call categories of ability. And so my first category of ability for students is informational level students. And these are the students who are actively involved in the learning process. They're eager to learn, they want to learn, they're curious, they're excited about coming to school, and they need very little support from professionals and or family members. They just are hot to trot, capable, bright, eager, motivated students. And they are gems, and we all love having them in our classes and in our lives. And in my career, which spans now about 40 years, I would share with you that the average number of informational students that I've had over time is about 15% of all the students, 10 to 15% of all the students with whom I've worked, probably closer to 10%, to be honest with you. Some years I would have 2, some years I would have none. And some couple of years in a row, I might have none, and then I would get 1. So it's rare. These are not a dime a dozen kind of kids. And they are always, in my estimation, expected, we come back to that slide, to achieve competitive employment. Most of them will achieve competitive employment without any help from rehab, without any help except just guidance from adults, just like every other kid on the face of earth. At that level, it's all about ability. It's not about disability. So if those informational level students are competing against one another, that's the trick. As service providers, we need to offer resources and instruction to these informational level students. Teach them what it is they need to know, then provide them with the resources and let them have at it. Help them with editing if they need it, give them encouragement when they turn in their lessons on time, as they usually will, and let them learn. Encourage these students to negotiate for the supports that they need. Start that self-advocacy with these informational level students early on, and help them understand that they only need to go for those supports when they are needed. And that's really what we call interdependence. That most adults who are successful in life learn to negotiate for help when they need it and to do for others when others need it. And we call that interdependence. If you are working with caregivers, parents, family members, teach them the activities of daily living so that they can teach those activities to their children. Give them the resources so that they can teach those skills in the home, which is the natural environment, and encourage them to support social engagement. Encourage parents of informational level students to take them to the ball games, to take them shopping with them, to take them out to take them wherever they go, and to encourage them to participate in those after-school activities, recreational activities, whatever is appropriate for that family's life. And always to assign chores at home and in the community. Instructional level students are what I would consider to be average students. And these students make up, in my history, in my career, about 75% of my caseload. It's the vast majority of students. These kids are average intelligence, average motivation, and they tend to be selectively engaged in classes based on their level of interest. So if they really love to read or they really love languages, they'll be very, very attentive in those language arts classes. If they love mathematics, they'll follow along and be actively engaged in the mathematics class, but they may pay less attention in the language arts classes, and vice versa. If they are more right brain than left brain, they will follow the things that they are most interested in, but the classes that they don't care as much about, because they don't have that level of interest, they're going to need those adults in their lives to help them understand why they are taking the courses, how they can benefit from classroom learning, and connect it to skills they already have or knowledge that they're going to need and skills they're going to need for that next environment. These kids need routine feedback on their performance, and they frankly tend to work for grades. They tend to work for rewards. They don't tend to be as self-motivated, if you will, as those informational level students who will do the work whether they get a reward or not. These instructional level students need those external rewards, external guidance in terms of connecting the dots, external supports. With these students, service providers must explain the supports available. They're not necessarily going to understand off the top why they need mobility, for example, or why they need to learn Braille, or why they need to use their optical devices, or what the advantage is in learning more than just your smartphone, learning a laptop, learning a desktop computer, learning programs that they may not be immediately gravitating to, like Excel or PowerPoint or Word, why they need to do that. You're going to have to explain what those things are, why they're connected, and what supports are out there available to them, how they would access Excel, how they would access Word, what supports they should expect from the teacher or the job coach or the O&M instructor, and what supports they can expect from their parental units, and what's above and beyond, what is beyond the pale. I often saw these kinds of students, instructional level students, taking advantage, frankly, of paraprofessionals, expecting them to do the grunt work that the student should have been doing. So help explain those supports to the students with whom you work. Teach both hard and soft skills. That really is about teaching the actual academic skills, the manipulation of items skills, the productivity skills, and the soft skills, those social skills, the cooperation skills, the getting along with other people, being responsive to other people, etc. And always relate content to future needs with applied learning and examples. I'll talk more about it in just a minute. With the caregivers, again, you need to encourage them to teach those activities of daily living in the home, but you're going to have to give them the resources to make that happen. Use the resource lists that I'm giving you, share those with parents, use them to help parents understand how to teach home and personal management skills, how to teach and support kids in doing outdoor activities, yard work, that kind of thing, so that they will assign chores at home, assign kids to do some volunteer work in the community, and reinforce those skills that you're teaching. These are the easier kids in terms of the work that you do, in my estimation, informational and instructional level students. The students who are more challenging for most of us, because we are typically trained up as vision teachers or as mobility specialists or AT instructors, we're not, most of us coming out of the developmental disabilities or health and mental health issues kind of disabilities, or taught as generalists. Most of us are taught blindness specific and vision specific skills. And so these advocacy level students tend to be more challenging because they are not only blind or only low vision. They are students with multiple disabilities, blindness and low vision, in addition to deafness, hearing impairment, autism, CP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Cognitive impairment, physical impairments, they run the gamut, as you know. And in my work, I think of these students as frankly, about 15% of the students with whom I worked when I was doing just school-based services, and about 10% of adult or post-secondary and adult students with whom I've worked. So it changes as students get older. But they are students who are going to need always extensive supports to participate in meaningful activities. And they're going to need those supports, maybe not in all areas of their lives, but in some areas of their lives for life. These students do not outgrow the need for the supports that they will require. Attendant care, interpreter services, one-on-one support for personal management, home management. These kinds of supports are ongoing, lifelong kinds of supports that advocacy students need. It doesn't mean that they can't contribute to society, but they will do it in different ways than their peers who are informational or instructional level students. They have great difficulty generalizing skills learned in a classroom or anywhere in specific skills to new situations. So if you take a task that you've taught in the class and you move it out into the community, you may have to reteach it. If you can teach it in the environment where it's likely to be needed or used, they're going to have a better chance of retaining the information and applying the skill in that same environment. It's very, very difficult to generalize. And these students will benefit tremendously from instruction in natural environments where they will ultimately live and work. Now, I realize when we're talking about preschoolers and elementary students, we're doing the largest portion of their instruction in schools and in the home, not in the community per se. But by the time those elementary students are moving up into 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they'll be going out on field trips, they'll be getting involved in the community. And the more participation that these kinds of kids who are advocacy level can have in those natural environments, the better. So remember to teach in those natural environments whenever you can. Again, with service providers, explain to other service providers and caregivers, parents and extended family, about the next environment options available. Recognize that students who are advocacy level students are process learners, not content learners. So traditional students, informational and instructional level students who have the cognitive ability to participate in a mainstream academic curriculum can handle, not always well, but they can handle content learning, where the teacher lectures or presents information, the student takes notes or participates in activities to reinforce, like worksheets and projects to reinforce content. They can take content in, analyze it, reproduce it, repeat it. They can learn in those kinds of environments. But students who are advocacy level do not learn well in a content-only environment. They learn best through process instruction, which means that you are doing the activity with the student. So if I'm teaching a deaf-blind student to make dough, I'm not just going to hand that student a written recipe or the ingredients and tell them what they need to do. I'm going to walk them through it, literally hand over hand or hand under hand. If they are small children, I'm going to come in from behind with my hands under their hands and literally show them how to break the egg, put it into the bowl without the shell, or break the egg into a cup so that I have the shell and the egg in one place and I can move the egg into the bowl with the student, whatever it's going to take. I'm going to teach that student how to stir the dough with hand under hand so that that child can see tactily what I'm doing as I move my spoon in the mixing bowl to make the dough. Process learning, process instruction is about doing with the student. I believe all students do better with process learning, but it's critical for advocacy level students. It's really important to incorporate as much as you possibly can with instructional level students, because I think that really it's only those informational level students, that 10% right up at the top, who can really handle full-on content learning. And then always, as you are working with these students, you need to remember that you will be the advocate for inclusion in life activities. With caregivers, please encourage them to start looking and investigating next environment options early on. To look closely at what school's next on the list, to look closely at what Brownie troop or Girl Scout troop or Boy Scout troop might be available, to look closely at the environment at the elementary school compared to the preschool, at the elementary school compared to the middle. They've got to plan in advance for future and for future supports. What is the child with special extensive needs going to need in that next environment? So I have some very important information that I must cover if I'm going to make it through in an hour about the stages of career information. I'm just going to rattle it off for you very quickly and share with you where we're going to start. We're going to start with the first stage of career education, the awareness stage, which really happens in early childhood, preschool, kindergarten, and frankly, early elementary. Then we're going to move into the second stage of career education, which is exploration, which typically happens in late elementary and middle school, up into junior high, if you have junior high rather than middle school. We're not going to cover today preparation. That's going to come with high school and middle school. And we're not really going to come and talk today about placement. Again, that's more like high school and moving into post-secondary. The fifth stage of the career education model is maintenance, which happens, quite frankly, after you leave school and you're in a job, you're in a career. Doing the maintenance is that model. This career education model has that stage there. I will share with you that much of what we are doing in preschool, kindergarten, elementary, middle school, not as much, but really in those early years is teaching those social skills and those activities to engage with others that are going to lend themselves beautifully to maintenance of employment in the future. We don't call this stage maintenance. We call this stage that we're going to talk about today awareness, and then moving into exploration. But the maintenance stage is about maintaining employment over time. And that takes us to the sixth final stage of career education, which is mentoring, where those of us who are my age, frankly, are now looking for younger people whom we can mentor to move into the roles that we've been serving so that they can serve in those roles moving forward. Succession planning, helping young people grow up to be what it is they want to be. How to get started. Always assess current skill levels, establish the goals and objectives you're going to be working on, provide the direct instruction that you need to provide as a TVI or an O&M or an AT specialist. Provide that direct instruction based on that assessment and the goals. Evaluate your progress over time and report your progress toward goals to both the student and the parents and your peers, the gen ed teacher, the O&M and TVI exchanging information, the AT, always to report out on the progress toward goals. That is an always and forever kind of lockstep format for me in terms of providing instruction. But now I want to shift and really hone in on some of the specifics for preschool intervention and then elementary, and then I'll give you some resources and we'll call it a day. So specifics for early intervention. Encourage the parents. They are the natural teachers. Encourage them. Let them know that they express their high expectations of their children when their children learn to groom and dress themselves, engage in family activities, play and dine with family members, go places with their families, and do age-appropriate chores. I've put a resource list for you all. I've put two actually for preschool students, informational and instructional level and advocacy level. And I've also included a handout called Age-Appropriate Chores for Students with Visual Impairment. Share them with the families. Encourage them to use those materials. And encourage parents to explore the environment with their children and to only intervene when absolutely necessary for safety, not to mollycoddle or helicopter over their children or smother them, but to let them engage with the environment, to get out and explore and do the things that their same aged peers with full vision are doing. Monitor, yes, for safety, but don't interfere. Children are starting to move away from home and part-time early childhood programs into full-time school as they exit out of preschool and move toward kindergarten and on into elementary. And what they are going to be expected to do is important to be aware of and to share with their families. They're going to be expected to participate in both group and individual activities. They are going to need to respond appropriately to adults and peers. They're going to be expected to organize their possessions and materials, to be able to recognize their coat from the other kid's coat, their backpack, their lunch, their whatever. They must organize their possessions and materials and be able to retrieve them. And they're going to be held responsible as they move into elementary school for their own actions. Build these expectations into preschool and kindergarten so that they are prepared and can go forward successfully. All of the adults surrounding preschoolers and kindergartners need to expect the children with and without disabilities to follow clearly stated rules and procedures. Keep it simple. 2 or 3 rules are enough, but make it clear what they are. Make sure they are articulated. Make sure if there are certain procedures, like you have to queue up or line up for going to the cafeteria or going out onto the playground, whatever the rules are and the procedures are, expect those children that have disabilities to follow those same procedures and rules as the other kids, but make sure they know what they are and how to follow them, how to make it happen. Kids need to attend to instruction. They need to be able to work independently or actively participate in group activities. And these kids that we're talking about, blind and low vision students, must use non-visual or visual techniques if they have low vision to accomplish tasks efficiently and pay attention to the feedback about other people's performance. It comes back to what I was talking about earlier with regard to realistic feedback. Make sure that your students are using the techniques that you've taught them and that the other adults in their environment are encouraging them to do so as well. Some very specific pointers for elementary students. Encourage parents to ask their children to help, to carry the groceries in, to unpack and put groceries away, to read stories to their younger siblings, to perform simple food preparation, to fold and put away their clothes, towels, or bed linens. You understand how this works. You can set the stage. They can first fold washcloths, and then fold hand towels, and then fold bath towels, and then fold sheets or pillowcases, and then sheets. They can first fold just their pants, shake them out, make the legs flat, fold them over one time, or fold them twice and put them into a drawer or hang them on a hanger. The kids need to do these things. The parents already know how to do it. The children need to be doing it. You're going to have to encourage those parents who will have a tendency to be doing all of these things for the kids. Encourage the parents you work with to let their children select and purchase their own clothing, their own toys, their own sports equipment, and school supplies. Elementary students are typically starting to put it together, what they want, what the other kids have, and they're not doing the full-on purchase, but they love to go through the line with their parents, pay the clerk, get the change, etc. Make sure that the kids you're working with are doing the same. Encourage parents to have a job jar that the kids in the family, if there's more than one, or if there's one, it doesn't matter, but if is more than one, to have a job jar that has jobs that will work for any of the kids at any age, or else to have separate job jars if the kids are very different in age, and let the kids reach into the jar and pick something out rather than having just assigned chores. Now, when I do it, I like to have a job/rewards jar where I encourage the kids that I work with to pull from the jar, not knowing if they're going to get a job or if they're going to get a reward. You can have a separate jar, that just has rewards in it that you can only draw from when you've completed, 3, 5 chores. But encourage parents to think about doing something like that to set the stage for children to understand that work produces a reward. Encourage the parents that you work with to show their children how they've organized, hopefully they have organized, their homes. How do they do the silverware into the drawer? How do they organize their pots and pans? How do they stack their dishes or put them into the dishwasher? How's the pantry organized? How are the closets organized? The dressers organized? Are all the underwear in one drawer, socks in another drawer, pants in a drawer, blouses hung up? Whatever the system is that they use, encourage them to show the kids how they do it, why they've organized the way they have, and then to let the kids choose. I mean, it can be as simple as having a box for all the toys, or a space in the closet that's just for them, where their shoes go, where their clothes hang. It doesn't matter how much space. There needs to be some kind of organizational system for blind and visually impaired kids to really benefit and be able to function well in a living space. If it's disorganized or in array, they're not going to be able to find things. They're not going to be able to retrieve their things. Parents need to understand it needs to be organized for children without good vision so that they can function as independently as possible. At elementary, parents need to be encouraged to have children begin their homework independently, not have parents hovering over them all the time. They may want to encourage their kids to answer the phone or go to the door and take messages for family members. Obviously, you think about safety. That's fine. Plan for that. Teach them how to do these things safely, but they need to be doing them. At school or for community-based activities, always ask your students to organize their possessions and materials and to use labeling techniques. It can be simple markers like buttons or raised lines. It can be Braille. It can be color-coded. I don't care how you do it. It just needs to be organized, and they need to understand that their things need to be labeled so that they can get their things and not other people's things. Ask students to always turn in their assignments and paperwork on time and in the formats that they are requested. If the teacher doesn't read Braille, the student needs to learn how to produce things in print as well as Braille so that they can follow along with what the teachers received. Ask students to help order any specialized texts, tools, or supplies that they may need so that they can get used to that moving forward. Have students prepare and present disability statements for different audiences, friends, professionals, strangers. Encourage students to advocate for themselves. Don't do all the talking for your students. Let them do talking for themselves. If they request additional time for assignments, chart with them how long they're taking and set goals to improve their speed over time. I see too many kids who come up all the way through special education, always using the same amount of additional time that they started with. Don't let your students fall into that trap. It's going to set them up for failure. And then hold the students that you work with to the same standards as their sighted peers. A big breath. I know that I'm racing through this material, but I just have this hour, and I want to share with you some of these resources. The standard publications that I always mention for these early learners, preschoolers and elementary students: Foundations of Education, the Expanded Core Curriculum, ECC Essentials book, Total Life Learning if you are working with advocacy level students out of the Perkins School. And for those early childhood kids and preschoolers, I always recommend the Blind Children's Center publications. I encourage you to read and to share the book that I edited out of AFB called Skills for Success, which has units by specialists in each of the age ranges. So there's a section just on preschoolers, a section just on elementary students that covers all of those things I talked about a little earlier: conveying high expectations, encouraging socialization, teaching independent living skills and other disability specific skills, compensatory skills, I guess I should call them, or blindness specific skills as I like to think about them, and ideas for giving kids realistic feedback and making opportunities for work happen. Sharon Sachs and I edited a book called Teaching Social Skills for Students with Vision Impairment that I strongly recommend. Here's the ECC Essentials. It ended up on my left side instead of my right side. I wasn't sure where it went. And for those young children, the book Early Focus. In terms of websites, I strongly encourage you to check out Project Aspiro. The link is right there for you in your handout. There are checklists, skills for preschoolers and skills for elementary students. Always with the little ones, I encourage you to look at and browse through Wonder Baby. It's a fabulous website. They have those developmental guidelines up there that are so important for us to know and to share with parents. Family Connect, the former AFB website, which is now being hosted by APH, the American Printing House for the Blind, has a wonderful article that I've hyperlinked for you here called Advocacy Skills for Younger Students. And then I thought you might enjoy this little YouTube video of a second grader's O&M lesson for his sighted peers called Learning with Luke. I strongly encourage you to check that one out. It's well worth the time. Here I can pause now and simply thank you all for persevering, hanging with me. Remind you that if you need to contact me, you are very welcome to do so. Remember my email address, karenwolffe@gmail.com. I thank you very much for your interest. I have like 2 minutes, so if there are a couple of
If
questions.
I can launch the poll real quick, this is Conchita. So thank you so much, Dr. Wolffe, for all of this information and all of these resources that people can access. We have a couple of questions up, and I did the wrong poll. Hold on.
Would you like me to take a quick look at those questions?
Yeah, we actually didn't have any in the chat, so we are.
I see one about the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is one of your handouts. It's up on the website that Conchita shared.
I sent you all a link if you registered with the Dropbox links that has all the sessions. If you need it, let me know and I can send it to you again. I think we have two questions just for our ending poll. How did you find the quality of the webinar? And is the information from the webinar, will you use it in your practice? So that is, thank you so much, Dr. Wolffe, and you all can find the next session on August 10th. on career education and transition middle school through high school. So, and if you need any of those, they are in the chat, and also you can email Dr. Wolffe or myself to get you any of that information.
And then you'll send me the questions from the chat, Conchita, and I'll answer them. If I have the emails, I'll have to have the emails too. Okay,
Absolutely.
excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys all so much, and we hope to see you August 10th.
Take good care.